Okay, so we're recording now. So thank you all for coming. I'm not sure how many in general, because a lot of people expressed interest, but we'll always see, how many people we get. I will provide you with all the handouts you need. Some of them will be kind of for future use, not necessarily to know now, but just for your toolbox as to what you'll need to learn. This first thing is the manual that we'll be going through to begin with. This I've been making into English so that you don't have to learn Greek, which originally was why I was here, was to translate everything and to tell you what it means. But little by little, I have 38 of their exercises done so far. So this is not up online. No one's seen this before. So you guys are the first people that get to use the partially translated into English version. And went back to Patricia. So yeah, this has never been seen. Hopefully it looks kind of professional. I don't know. It's a work in progress. I'm also working on trying to write up a textbook as to how to, different things to learn as you go along. There are a bunch of textbooks that are available online. If you feel so inclined, this one's probably the best one out there right now, the Byzantine Ecclesiastical Music. It's tremendously expensive though. So if you go on the website for my choir in Pittsburgh, and I'm the webmaster, is byzantinechant.org. So if you go on byzantinechant.org, you'll find pretty much everything I hand out except for the manual that I just handed out. But this book, I have a little review up there. It's good. There's a bunch of things that it's from Australia, so it's specifically Australian language that they use, so sometimes it's a little funny about how they tell you things. This one is a classic book by one of the classic teachers, written in Greek, translated into English. It's not really helpful for the beginner at all. This one is by Holy Cross in Boston, their school. There's mistakes. It's very nice and it's very colorful. As you can see, there's all sorts of colors and things like that. Very nice book. It's essentially the exercises that we have here, except color-coded and with other things. There are, again, some mistakes in here. Sadly, they let that slip through. And then this is a book that they used to use at Holy Cross. Very good, except some of the language is antiquated. This is free online. I got permission to post it. So this is probably the cheapest option if you have any interest in something where it's written out in words with extra exercises. But again, any examples they have are with Greek words and not English words, sadly. The next thing besides the manual is a cheat sheet that it's not complete yet, and I don't know if it'll ever be complete, but it's just a lot of the things that I've been putting together. So this is kind of if you forget what a symbol means, this is for that, and you have that one, yeah. Is that everybody? Okay. Then the next thing, this will be...
How much does this cost?
I think that might actually just be $15 or so. If you go on byzantinechant.org, I have a link to it specifically under resources, I think. So that one's not very expensive, if I recall.
I got this in Bulgarian.
Oh really? Yeah. So recently translated within the past year, I would say. These are exercises that we'll look at the end of today. Yeah. Okay, so that's everything. And then the two last things. This is for way down the line. If you stick with me, this will become beneficial. It's not beneficial now, so don't even look at it. I give it to you so you have it, and so you have something to look at. This is the chart of scales, and just so you have that for future reference. And then this is the final. I drew up a few lessons when we were first going through this with the last group, and this is lesson 1. We probably won't get enough to really do this, just to test your knowledge, but this at least has some, that should test a good bunch of it. So there's a bunch of handouts. That should be enough for now. Any questions before I begin, and I'll kind of talk for a little bit about Byzantine music, and then we'll get started right into things. So any questions about the handouts or anything? All right. So I'll go through, I assume everyone's familiar with Byzantine music, kind of, maybe. So I'll just go through a few things. So Western music has a certain scale. In Western Europe, they say do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. That's how the notes are called. In America, we say C, D, E, F, G. In Byzantine music, because they're not based on those, they have a different scale. That's the ni, pa, vu, ga, di, ke, zo, ni. Again, the same way that the Western scale is based, it's based off of either like a little rhyme, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do is based off of certain things there. A, B, C, D, E, F, G is our alphabet. This is based off of the Greek alphabet. And so you have alpha, beta, gamma, delta, and so on. So pa, they start on pa, and we'll go through this more in depth in a minute. But pa is alpha, wu is beta, ga is gamma. So that's kind of their simple way of creating a scale based upon the Greek language for their own musical system that developed natively in their region. And so don't worry about the note names for the moment, and we'll get through them. But the first thing with Byzantine music is that there's 2 parts in general. Every so often there's 3 parts. But the one, obviously, is called the melody, and the other one is the isan. And isan is your kind of your part that stays the same. It's your drone. It's the part that supports the melody and kind of organizes the harmonic structure. Iso meaning the same, so that's the part that doesn't change very much. And I'll show you how it's written. The melody is your word painting organ. It's how you define everything about the words and how everything's put together. And so this is primarily what we'll focus on. We'll do isan. Isan is harder to learn, and it's normally Byzantine music schools are 4 or 5 years. Like if you're a professional musician going to school for Byzantine music in Greece or in Syria or someplace in the Middle East, it's a 4-year or 5-year program. You do melody all the time, and maybe your final year you get to do isan because it's considered that way. In America, oftentimes we reverse it because isan is the easiest to learn because all you have to know is these note names. Melody, you have to learn a good bit more. But the melody being the word painter, it's the unified voice of the church. As one of my good friends in Pittsburgh, he likes to say the isan, because it's a drone, it's the uncreated, unwavering light of God, underlying everything of the theology of the Orthodox Church. So when you're singing, this is not just blasé singing, this is a theological statement that's for the edification of the people. So, because we have a melody, we need to have some notes to tell you how to go and where to start. So, what they do is they have some sort of starting marker, and they have a bunch of symbols. And in Western music, you have 5 lines, and then everything is kind of vertically structured, and you have an absolute pitch. That's not the way that Byzantine music is done. Everything is relative based upon the note that you were. So it won't say sing a D or sing an A. It'll say go up 3 notes, or go up 5 notes, or go down 2 notes. So it's always relative to where you are, and it assumes that you know what scale you're singing in. There's a bunch of scales that we'll learn over time, but we'll only deal with one. And so since everything is symbolic, everything is not vertically structured, it's all horizontally structured. So that helps with sight singing and reading the words, because all you have, instead of 5 lines, you just have one set of symbols going across, and the words written right beneath them. So you have 1 note and 1 word. And whereas in Western music you have 5 lines, 4 spaces, you have to figure out where it is while you're looking at the words underneath it as well. And in fact, there's only 10 symbols that you'll need to learn for going up and down. The rest are mathematical combinations, 1 plus 1 is 2, and therefore, you already know how to go up 2 in certain circumstances. So, 10 symbols, we'll learn them over probably the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then practice them, and there's rhythm and all sorts of other things. Just to give you a glimpse at what those symbols are, let me switch pens real quick. So, these symbols developed because back in the day they had texts. Everyone always had texts to read in the church. And so somebody was chanting these texts, and people said, we want to chant with you. So they said, okay, we'll put a little melody to it. And so if you have, Lord, I have tried, they said, okay, it's the same thing as if I were to say, okay, I'm going to kind of go up here and then go down, and then I'm going to stay the same a little bit, and then do this, jump down a few notes, go up. And so there's this kind of symbolic notation above the words to tell you what to do. The same thing with Byzantine notation, except because a lot of people couldn't read, they just made hand symbols. So the hand symbols end up being things that you can do with your hands, such as this symbol, a straight line, things like that. Little things that you can make with your hands. In fact, I believe this one, the translation from Greek is claw, because it kind of looks like a claw. I don't know. So you have this one, this one, this one. You have another symbol, which is this guy. You have this guy. You have this guy. You have another symbol, or sorry, that symbol. You have this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then, let's see, there's 2 more. Right, then this one. 9. There's one that I'm missing. That's okay. We get that one too.
Upside down, put this there.
Yep, get that there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Have a look. Anyone have the symbol cheat sheet? Yeah. Let's see. What am I missing?
Oh, no, we don't have it here. To me, yellow is.
Yeah, the lightning bolt.
I know.
Yeah, the lightning bolt.
Lightning bolt?
Yeah, there is a lightning bolt.
We'll figure out which one I'm missing. It's obviously not important. So, so 9 or 10 symbols that you'll have to learn.
Is that it? This one's missing.
No, that one's up there. Oh wait, yeah, put that one there. I guess it might be this guy. We might separate those. Let me look real quick. But so what each one of these means up 1, down 1, stay the same, do something with the melody. And so
Right. Oh,
yeah, I know what I'm
I
missing.
see.
That's okay. So what we'll do is we'll first show how the music is kind of organized. We'll go through the scale in a second, and what we'll do is we'll sing this primarily with a major scale. Nothing fancy. The intervals of the traditional Byzantine music scale are slightly altered, and so it's not do re mi. It's do re mi. Slightly flat. It's a third of a flat. So in Western music, you can't write a third of a flat, so it kind of fails to write the music. So Byzantine music is good for that because it doesn't have to write those flats and sharps the same way. But the one thing before we start is that you'll have to learn a little bit of the Greek symbols. That don't worry yourself about them now because you don't need to read them. I'll tell you what they are. But this one, the lowercase letter is nu, like that, and then pi, and then beta, and then gamma, or the way that you'll see it most of the time is like that, and then v, and then ke, or sometimes they'll write it like that, and then zo, looks just like a z, and then back to the ni. And these little guys will be what show you what note you should start on, or what note you should be on in the midst of music, because if you're starting on a certain pitch and it tells you go up 1, go up 1, go down 2, how do you know what note you're on? At some point you're in the middle of the music and maybe you got lost. At some point you have to have some way to say, I should be on this note, and if I'm not there, I need to get there. So what you have in the midst of the music are things called martyrias, from the word martyr, for a witness. It just witnesses to the music, tells you what the music should be expressing. So what you have is let's say, we wanted to start on this note ni, which we'll just start at the moment. So I put the Greek letter nu there, and for some reason they're not written in English yet. I don't know if they ever will be. But then underneath it is a little symbol, which you don't need to learn at all. It's just a stylized delta, but that's besides the point. And this just tells you what scale you're in and what the environment around that note is. But this together is your first witness to the music. And this tells you should be on ni. And then if it had a pa, you should be on pa. If it had a vu, you should be on vu. And then you go somewhere from that. So any questions before I tell you how to go places from there? Okay. So in order to go places, the first note that you'll know, and if you want to, I think the class last time I did a much more in-depth introduction to Byzantine music in general. So if you want that, it's online. But the first note is your isan, and your isan means don't do anything, don't go anywhere. So 0, stay the same. and this one is called Isan.
How do you know where me is?
You define it.
You self-define it.
Yeah. So if you say me,
Then that's not.
that's a me. Yeah. And if you happen to have a much deeper voice, and you me, that's perfectly fine. If you're a choir of females, some of the female monasteries, they chant so low that their knee is knee, which to me to start on knee down there would be really low. And some tenors, if you hear some of the recordings of the really nice Constantinopolitan chanters, they're really up high. I can't chant with them. Yeah, I'll just do some. So they're knee. It's much too high, at least for me. So it's all relative pitch and all based on where you want to chant. And so Isan, 0, stay the same. Then what you have is a note called Oligon, Oligon. And these names, they're not necessarily good to memorize. You can memorize them. I memorize them because I'm telling you guys about them. And if you write online or if you're talking to a teacher and you want to pinpoint a certain note, you might say, well, the Oligon after this. Otherwise, there's no way to talk about the music. So these are just a way of naming the symbol. And there's no easy way to do it in English, so I just transliterate the Greek. And that means go up one. So go up one note. And then the next one is what's called apostrophos. And just like the word apostrophe, because it kind of looks like an apostrophe. And that just means down one. Okay?
Is plus or minus 1 equivalent to 1 tone or a semitone?
1 tone in the scale.
Like between do and re, it's 1 tone.
Mm-hmm.
Do, re.
Yeah. However, normally the way that I'll speak, because if anyone knows Western music, I could say jump up a fourth, go up a fifth, go up a second. The problem is that those are Western intervals and they don't correspond always to the Byzantine intervals, because sometimes it's bigger or smaller than a second or a fourth. So most of the time I'll say go up 1, go up 2, go up 4. And that way it just says go up 1 note. So if you're on mi, then you go to pa. And then if you see this one again, it says pa da bu, bu da ga, ga da di. So that's a way, it just says go up 1 in the scale from where you were. And
Is apostrophos the word that means claw?
I believe so. I'll have to look at what it means in Greek. My Greek, at least for these words, is besides isan, is minimal. So.
Apple before stroke.
Well, yeah. I'm not sure if that's the etymology or not from that. I'll try and look if I can. But so these are the first 3 symbols, and if you look in the little manual that I have an explanation there. Let's see, where's my manual? And so essentially what I just said in longer words is written there, and hopefully pretty clear. And so what we'll do is we'll first kind of work through the scale a little bit, and then we'll kind of forget the scale for today, just because it would hinder us from moving forward too quickly enough. So the first thing, if everyone could say the scale with me, just ni pa vu ga di ke zoni slowly. So ni pa vu ga di ke zo ni. Okay, so now we'll just go
Modern
up.
Greeks do the delta as a th.
What?
Modern Greeks do the delta as a th.
Okay.
You did.
What the?
But it doesn't look like.
Oh, I put DH because if you put THI, that'd be the, which is not the right. Yeah. And so it's more like THEE. That's too many. The, the O Lord. But it's too many letters to put sometimes, to put 4 letters up there. So at least the thing that a bunch of us decided was to put DHI. Some people put THI. Some people might put THEE. But I think those 2 are wrong. Not helpful, at least.
Why there are apostrophes at the end of zo and ni?
So the reason why I put them there, so there's a few ways to write the notes. So like with these little martillas, the witnesses to the music, this is your regular ni. Ni. If I want to go ni up here, it gets an apostrophe to tell you up the octave, up 7 notes from it. If you want to go down, it's written a different way. Normally what you would see is you might see a ni, up the octave would be that, and then down the octave would be a lowercase, or in Greek, it would be the same. So this is down the octave, which I can't sing, and then ni, ni. So if ever you see an apostrophe, it means up the octave. And
But you
But
don't
there's
have
only
another
one zo,
so.
so why do you have?
Yeah.
okay, you guys are perceptive. My goodness. Not that the last class wasn't, because I don't recall what they actually, if they noticed that or not. So the scale initially started on Pa. So everything was based around Pa because they started on alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon. So if you have alpha, and then you have beta, and then you have gamma, and you have delta, and then you have epsilon, and then you have omicron, and then eta. So what they did was they said, okay, well, this is a vowel, this is a consonant, this is a consonant, this is a consonant, this is a vowel. So you put a pair with each one. So if it's a vowel, you put a consonant. If it's a consonant, you put a vowel. So they said, this is going to be Pa, which is our Pa. This is going to be Vu. Then this is going to be Ga. This is going to be Di. This is going to be Te. This is going to be Zo. And this is going to be Ni. So it starts on Pa, goes up to Ni, and then you have the high Pa. However, then what ended up happening is that Ni became a dominant note in a lot of the tones. And I'm not sure how historically important this is, but this is how I've understood it. So Ni became a dominant part, so they said, okay, so this is the regular Ni. We'll make this one the high Ni. So you put an apostrophe there. And then the lowest note of any of the tones for them to start, because they all start on some basis note that they're defined by. The lowest one is Zo. So if that's the lowest note of all these guys, then this will be your regular Zo, since this is the lowest note that you'll ever have. So then you make this one high Zo. So because over time it became Ni and then it became Zo as your starting notes for the tones, then these became your regular ones just to make it easier to write in the midst of the music. And these became your high ones. And the tones at some point, they were, tone 1 was Pa, tone 2 was Bu, tone 3 was Ga, tone 4 was Di, tone Plagal 1, or tone 5 was Ke, and then came back down the scale. And that was how they were organized, and over time, it got more complicated, and it got, more musically challenging, and then those defined rules are not really accurate anymore, but nevertheless, that was kind of how it began, was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So
Starting notes will always be one of those,
mm-hmm.
but it'll never go lower than the low Zo.
Right.
But that doesn't mean we could still sing a note lower than
Mm-hmm.
the low Zo. We just won't start on it.
Exactly.
Low Zo.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay. So the one thing before we actually get into some music, these are some cards that a friend of mine put together, and these may be helpful, and maybe we'll go through them at some point. But these are kind of things more for I guess kid learning, but I still find them fun. And if they, like, she just had letters, so this is Ni and all these little things, and she was playing games with her daughter who was like 3, and she was like, all right, put Ni Pa Vu all together. And so she organized them. Pa was there, and Ni, high Ni was up here, and low Ni was down here, and a way to kind of train her over time to play with these things and to get them in her mind as quickly as possible. So if anyone wants to play some card games, and they played, I think, Speed with them too, like the card game Speed with them. And then to learn, the little Greek symbols, because they're not normal, most of our young kids don't know them. She was like, okay, this is Ni, this is Pa, and then again, to transition from the English symbols to the Greek symbols. And then, as we'll see over time, she also made these little guys, which are all your little symbols. And and she color coded them that if it's blue, it means towards the sky, so it goes up. If it's green, it's toward the earth, so it goes down. And so then that's a way, one, of orienting your symbols, because some of them might look similar. So just to make sure they're going up or down, but also just as another way of knowing this is up, this is down, just an added kind of thought behind it. So if anyone wants to look through these, or if we want to use them at some point, I'm fine. I know sometimes adults don't like to to play kids games, but I do. But so those are there if we want to. And then this exercises for learning the note names is probably too complicated for us right now. And we'll look at it probably at the end. But this is where, to kind of challenge yourself, if you say, this one it says ni pa ni, so you would just work through them at a walking speed. Ni pa vu pa ni pa vu ga vu pa ni pa vu ga di ga vu pa ni. And there's different ones in there that you use in Western solfege music to kind of train yourself with do re mi. However, I wrote them out in ni pa vu to kind of trick you and to make sure that you know what they are. So, any questions, or shall we get into a little bit of music to kind of get ourselves reading? Okay. So, if you go to exercise 1 in that Byzantine chant manual.
Is this the same thing as Margaziotis online?
Yep. Everything is exactly the same, except for the fact that it's in English. So the full Margaziotis manual is up online, and there's recordings on there, so that if you wanted, you can go online and you can be like exercise 1, and you click, and there's this big Greek guy who says ni pa vu. You know, he sings through all 100 and whatever exercises there are that I haven't written out yet. And so if you want to check yourself, you can listen to him and do that. But we'll go through them anyway, just as a check.
Which page?
The exercise manual.
Which one?
This guy.
Okay.
Yeah. So exercise 1, and this one it just uses the ison, the oligon, and the apostrophos, and the first one has the ni's and pa's written in, so we'll sing that with ni pa vu, and afterwards, to kind of get yourself acclimated to those syllables, it might be nice to write them in. There is space there that I've given you. So initially you might put an N, you might put a B, you might put a V, just to remind yourself what it is, or ni pa vu. And before we sing that, let's just sing the scale up and down, ni pa vu ga di ke zo ni, as it's written. So this will be our ni pa vu ga di ke zo ni, and now back down. Ni zo ke di ga vu pa ni. So, before we read anything, let's say we start on ni, which I'll just write there. And I go, it says stay the same. It says ni, same thing as that. This is pa, up 1 from that. Then this is up 1 more, which is vu. So this is ni, pa, vu. Right? Does that make sense? And again, horizontal, everything is read from left to right. Arabic gets confusing, but we're not going to be reading in Arabic, so that's fine. And things are read bottom up if you're ascending, or top down if you're descending. But right now, that doesn't matter for us. So, ni pa vu. And let's go to exercise 1. Alright, any questions before we sing it? Alright. Yep, exercise 1. And there's a page turn in the midst of the exercise, so I apologize for that. So, exercise 1. Most Byzantine music is in duple meter, so 1, 2, 1, 2. Sometimes you get triple or quadruple, so 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But we'll talk about that later. So everything here is 2 beats per grouping of notes, called a measure. So 1, 2, ni, pa, vu, ga, di, ke, zo, ni,
checkpoints.
Hmm?
Checkpoints.
Yeah, checkpoints. And so at the end, we see a knee. We should be on knee. Conveniently, we are, and thank goodness. Otherwise, I should be fired. And then you see in the middle of the music, you see the knee with the apostrophe, which tells you up the octave. You see a the, and we're saying the at the same time. So those are all checkpoints to let you know where you should be. And if you're not there,
Is that usually in the regular music
Mhm.
at the end?
yeah, sometimes there's more space between them. So like let's say a cherubic hymn, there's lots of music, and sometimes there's a lot of notes, and then you get lost because between let and us, there's no real good pausing point, and so sometimes they don't write one there, and so it's assumed that if you're singing a cherubic hymn, you're probably skilled enough to know what you're doing, and so those are just there as helpers. Whereas these, they put them every few notes. So, there's a question. Okay, so makes sense so far?
Mhm.
Exercise 2. The knees and paws are not written in, so if you look at this though, it's knee, up one, up one, up one, up one, up one, up one, up one. So it's just up the scale. So knowing that, let's just sing the scale and then go down the same way. So ni pa vo ga di ke za ni za ke di ga vo pa ni. That one's simple. Exercise 3. This we'll sing on La. And I'm going to kind of alternate back and forth today because obviously you just learned Ni Pa Vu. So you're not going to have it memorized. Next time and more, I'm going to stop using La and I'm going to use Ni and Pa much more often. The major reason is that it's a tenet in the Greek teaching style when they teach in these schools that you do all music 1,000 times on paralegi, which is what your Ni Pa Vu is called, just like the note names, and then 1 time on melody. So you sing it 1,000 times, as many times as you can with the note names, and then 1 time with the words. So because that's the tradition, it's a very beneficial thing to do is to learn the note names and to sing it as often as you can with Ni Pa Vu Ga Di Ke Zo Ni. So that's kind of what they do. And there's a Greek phrase with that, which I don't know off the top of my head how to say it in Greek. So number 3, exercise 3. Let's just do it on La. So again, this is just stay the same. Up 1, down 1, up 1, up 1, up 1, stay the same. So La. Okay, ready? 1, 2. La, 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 la. And now we're not on Pa because we started there. So the note says Pa, so that's Pa. So we're all good. Continuing from the Pa. La, 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 All right, anyone know what note we ended on?
This is high knee.
High knee, yes. Okay, cool. Exercise.
Why the last one is longer?
Longer?
You mean like that?
Oh, that's just because we held it like that. We wanted to relish in that La.
Okay.
There's no rhythm yet. That's just every note is 1 beat as far as we're concerned for the moment. So, exercise 4, unless there's any questions. All right. So that'll be our La. La, 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 that was our starting note 2. So we're good to go. The one thing in the midst of the music, these little checkpoints, the little martirias, the witnesses to the music, are put at appropriate points in a phrase where you can breathe normally. So normally there's an appropriate place to pause, to breathe. If you need to swallow, you can swallow, unless you're singing in a choir, in which case you can probably swallow whatever you want and breathe. But they're normally at a comma, at a period, someplace where a full statement has been made and you can pause. So if you decide to breathe, normally it's traditional to breathe at one of those checkpoints. If you're in the middle of music, don't suffocate yourself. But in case you're in the midst of music and there's no martiria to be found, you have a cross. We rely on the cross. And in the Byzantine music, we also rely on the cross. It tells us things to do. It gives us hope that we can make it to the end of the phrase because it's a breath. So the cross, as one might think, it just looks like a plus. So the cross means it's an appropriate place to breathe. It is a breath mark. It could also be an appropriate place to cut off if you're with a group to say, okay, let's pause. We've sung a lot. Let's pause for a brief moment and then continue. So normally the pause is always at an appropriate place to breathe, or like it's never in the middle of a word. Like you wouldn't say education. You would never have a pause right there. So it's there, and in Greek it also has a specific function that oftentimes they use a plus if you have the end of a word being an alpha and the beginning of the next word is also an alpha. In English we have dashes and underscores which tell you that, like, if I had la, I would put an underscore to say that the word's going to continue. In Greek they would just say la, That's how they do things because the vowels are pure. Because of that, is this the end of the word? Does this start a new word? I don't know. So what they do is they say, nope, this is a new word. So they tell you, re-articulate the ah. So you're not going to say alpha anthropos. You're not going to blend them together. You say alpha anthropos, and you skip into the next word. So, and you would never find that in actual music because it just wouldn't make any sense to say alpha followed by anthropos. So that's the cross. Any questions on the cross before we utilize the cross? Okay. And we'll go back to some of these since we've already sung them. We'll go back and maybe redo them with note names. Just so now you're seeing that you can read the music, and then we'll add the note names just to see. It'll be more difficult.
How long is the pause?
It depends on what your decision is. So the way that I would sing this, let's say exercise number 5, I would say ni pa vo ga vo pa ni pa. Just cut off the note and breathe. But you could go ni pa vo ga vo pa ni pa vo, depending upon how you feel, because it's all about musicality, being artful, and expressing the words in an understandable fashion for the people. And if you're the chanter and you find yourself that you're getting exhausted, it's better for you to take a slight extra pause, regain your composure, and continue than it is to fall apart in the midst of the next phrase because you haven't caught your momentum. So it's kind of up to the discretion. Most of the time I would say the pause, just a little. Most of the time it's in tempo, but you can take it out of tempo, out of the rhythm. But oftentimes it's nice to keep it in the tempo. But we've, at least in the choir that I was in Pittsburgh, I put pluses in my music so that the head chanter knew when he could break, because there were oftentimes when he would break and it was like, no, don't break there. That was a bad place to break. So I just put pluses in all my music so that I was like, here, use this. This is for you. So if that's an acceptable answer, I hope it is. So exercise number 5. That's our ni on la. La, 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 la. Breathe. La, 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 la. there? Make sense?
Yeah,
Alright.
what are those, what is that symbol there? Or those two symbols?
So let me write it. So what they do, because this is an art form as well, what Eugene was asking about was that in the midst of the music, you'll see mi, and you'll see pa, and it's kind of stylized. Vu, what they end up writing, you have uppercase and lowercase kind of look like that. Sorry. Oftentimes they write it like that, almost like a stylized B for us, but that's kind of their stylized vu, their beta. And then ga, it looks the same. But the rest of them pretty much look the same. It's only vu that ends up getting a little stylized. So
And what's under the vu?
So under the vu is this symbol. And should I tell you the story right now? Do you have the story?
Sure, why not?
Okay. So each one of these comes from something. So like this one, and I don't know all of them, but this one is a stylized delta. So this is delta, lowercase delta. So this, if you see, is kind of squiggly and it still has a little loopy around it. Let me actually go onto my screen so they can see what I'm writing. They meaning, I don't know. So, and then pa, it has like a 9 or a Q. That one actually comes from, if I recall, it is from the times of Homer that they had certain different scales that they would sing. One of the scales was the Diatonic Scale. The Diatonic Scale, they would oftentimes write this and say, at the beginning of a piece of music, they'd write this symbol, and that tells you, you're going to sing this poem in the diatonic fashion. So that's where that comes from. This one I'll say in a second. This one is a stylized eta. If you notice, it's kind of like waterfalls, but if you put them together, you can kind of see the symbol. And then V has the same thing as ni. And this is all diatonic scale, which I haven't told you anything about, so ignore that. It has 2 dots, which tells you that it's either up 4 notes from the last one, and we'll talk about that later. K has the same thing. If you notice, same symbol. It's got 2 dots. Zo has a symbol that I'll say in a second. And this one again has these guys, because these two are very related, so they get the same one. And then Zo, what is it about Zo? It gets the lambda again. So if you notice, if you know math,
It's lambda.
lambda is like that. But it has a little guy there. It has like a little thing. So what this is, it's the word, it's a combination of lambda and tau. Okay? And it's an abbreviation for the word legatos in Greek. The word lege means say, and tos used to be the name for vu back in the day, way back in the day. So at some point when they were teaching Byzantine music, the interval vigavu was a hard interval to do. It's not vigavu, and it's not vigavu. It's neither of those, it's in the middle. So vigavu was a hard interval for everyone to get, even in the Byzantine world back in the day. So what they ended up saying, the teacher kept saying, legetos, say tos, get it right. And so he's like, legetos, 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 which is vigavu. And so somehow I got an input as a reminder to all the students, say tos. This is a difficult symbol, so you have these two as a little combination symbol. So this just means legetos, which is a reminder to say tos. So, does that answer your question?
And those 2 dots, it's because they were short in size or what?
The 2 dots?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's just, I don't know why it's 2 dots. I just know it means up 4 notes.
Okay.
Up 4 notes from the other one that has the same relationship. Or that it has the same environment but kind of different. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. So, we'll talk. Don't worry about the bottom symbols now. You can pretty much ignore them if you want to. Over time, you'll learn to desire them and to want them in the music. So
what exactly means? What is the second line?
So this first line, again, the notes.
Those are the, yeah.
The second line tells you the environment around this note. because like how far is ni from pa? How far is pa from bu? How far is bu from ga? So this symbol tells you the environment around ni has certain qualities about it. It's not the same as pa, and so this one's kind of individual. This one has the same environment. Between the and ke and the and ga has the same environment as this guy. So these are just telling you both the scale that you should be singing in, which we haven't learned any scales. We're just singing Western music scales. But it's also telling you the local environment for that scale. So what is your placement in that scale? 4 scales in general, at least full scales. And so the interval between ni and pa is defined by that scale. So this tells you what scale you're in and what is the environment where you are and what note you should be singing.
So like it's major in S or minor in the same way.
Yeah. And how big of an interval you're gonna is next to it. Exactly. Does that help?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, if they didn't know frequencies as we know, how did they make to go on the same sound when, you know?
I don't know. I mean, they were pretty intelligent people, so.
I know the answer. They would literally drill flutes
Oh, right.
with the intervals in the different modes.
Because it's all based on
and this
distance.
is even true in Arabic music with an A. So those were also drilled, and they correspond with Byzantine rooms. So people would learn what the different intervals were supposed to sound like by playing the melodies on these little flutes. And Chrysanthos,
the guy who wrote this book, he wrote the great book of music theory for the Greeks and this other little book for Byzantine notation.
He insisted on having these for every single student, and he took what used to take 6 years for students to learn and narrowed it down to 6 months.
To memorize.
Yeah.
And then he took becoming a master chanter from 25 years down to 5. So
insisting on having this ancient method.
So if you guys practice every day for like 8 hours a day,
in 25
5 years, 5 years, no, just 5 years, not 25. 5 years, you'll be awesome.
So you need a lot of flutes then, right?
Yeah.
Because
No.
you can't adjust the holes after you drill them.
Well, you only need, you need one flute per scale, essentially.
There's a dude in DC who took a synthesizer, who was a chanter over at St. Sophia. He took a synthesizer and he replicated the major 8 tones.
I have that on my phone too.
You have that too?
Yeah.
You had that thing?
Yeah, if you...
It's an app?
There is an app. It's a tremendously expensive app. It's way too expensive.
No, this one's free. Do
What?
you want the link?
Well, that's a synthesizer though.
No, but this is just a link for learning them.
Oh, that'd be awesome, yeah.
Yeah.
This, let's see. Wait, sorry.
I like that one. Definitely.
It's hard to get fixed.
And I was trying to put up a bunch of scales on ByzantineChant.org, but I ran out of time and I was focused on other things to say, like, you know, here's what all the intervals are.
Yeah.
But if you go on there is a scale page, and I at least have the Diatonic Scale up there, and you can see how the different intervals are different and how they're not Western at all. But yeah, please send that over. So okay, so exercise 6, I think. Did we do? No. Yeah, we didn't do that one. That's a long one. Okay, exercise 6. So, ni on la, la 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 la, 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 la. Easy?
There is no plus sign.
Nope, no plus sign. So if you can, make it through that entire phrase until the next check mark. But yeah, no plus sign.
Forget it.
So, any questions, or is that kind of straightforward? Just up on all these little symbols. I think this would be really easy for children to learn for some reason because it's all symbolic. You know, you get used to symbols and things. So let's go the next thing, which is hardly ever used, but we'll introduce it before we introduce rhythm and things like that. Is something called the ethen, which sounds a lot like hyphen, which is spelled in English like hyphen, and it connects to two things. So if I were to do this, these are two isans. So if this is ni, and then again on ni. If I connect these two with this little symbol called the hyphen, let me actually go to my screen. Then this now means instead of being one beat, this is now two beats.
Legato.
Yeah, you hold them together. So ni. So that just becomes two beats. So if I were to do this and write an olicon followed by an ison, and I connect them, our final note is pa. So this would be pa, again, two notes. And the same thing with the apostrophos. That'd be zo.
So the second symbol is always going to be isan.
For this one, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because this is not a slur, but it's a tie. You're tying the two things together. So, hopefully I wrote tie. Yeah, I did. Okay, good. So, it's a pretty straightforward example. Because it's straightforward and because you have time, can we sing it on note names? The ni pa vu? Because you have an extra beat to look up at the board or to look at your cheat sheet. I think the third page of the cheat sheet is the ni pa vu. Yeah, the third page. So, in case you get lost and you don't want to look up, then you can.
We're not going hard and low.
Ni pa vu ga di. Yep, you go up to D. So, okay, really quickly. Ni pa vu ga di. One more time. Ni pa vu ga di. One more time. Ni pa vu ga di. And now go down. Di ga vu pa ni. One more time, back to D. Di ga vu pa ni. Just one more time. Di ga vu pa ni. And now all the way up the scale just for kicks. Ni pa vu ga di ke zo ni. Back down. Ni zo ke li ga vu pa ni. The third page of that is the ni pa vu if you want to.
Up this one.
What the page?
So keep going in it.
I was looking
Yep.
for this.
Of this the cheat sheet.
This one?
You.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
And I have it all summarized there for you. You got the Greek name in capital letters and how it would be written for Isan, the Greek letter for the martyria,
Cool.
the
But
English
it was.
equivalent.
It fits that one.
Hmm?
It fits that one. It fits that line.
Yep, yes, that's why I was doing it, yeah. So now let's read the music, even though we already kind of sang it. So number 7, that'll be our ni. Ni pa vu ga di. Di ga vu pa ni. Cool. Questions? All right. Let's do the next one. This one only goes up to vu, but it does go down to zo. So ni zo ni. Just remember zo. So number 8. Let's sing it again with the note names, especially because I kind of wrote them in there for you. So ni 1, 2, Ni, 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 pa, 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 vo, 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 pa, 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 ni, 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 zo, 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 ni, zo, ni. Simple? Okay? Is that okay? All right. So now we're approaching the end of our time together for today, but let us go to exercise 9 real quick, and I'll introduce 2 more things, and maybe we'll practice one of them. So, because it's not cool enough to just go up one way. So we had oligon, which goes up 1. Now we have a symbol called the petasti, which also means go up 1. Petasti. And then we also have something called the kendimata. And just to let you know, there's also a symbol called kendima, which is just one of these. So in Greek, when you have 2, for a lot of things it becomes, you add a ta at the end. So kendima, kendimata. So this is just the plural of this symbol. So that's just to let you know why it's called that symbol. And this guy is called kendimata. And these names are, again, just summarized on your cheat sheet there on the first page. So this one means go up 1, regular. Nothing fancy, just regular. Okay? This other one means go up 1, but stressed. So that'll be on a stressed syllable, or it'll be on a stressed beat. And if you have enough time, it means that you're going to flutter with it. Okay? And I'll tell you what flutter means in a second. You don't go all willy-nilly with the flutter, but I'll tell you what to do. And then this one means go up 1, but unstressed. Unstressed.
What's the difference between regular and unstressed?
So, I will tell you that in a second. And so, this one, just before I get to that, this one, the flutter. So, if I were to write, let's say, this. So, ison, the petasti, followed by an apostrophe. This starts on ni. Ni, pa, ni. So it's stressed. If you want to flutter, it'd be ni, pa, ni, to the pa, just up to the next note. Just not very far. Just The unstressed means, again, that you're not going to stretch it, but normally what it also means, let's say if I had this. This would mean pavu, right? Just up 1, up 1. However, now if I were to write la, this is unstressed, so it gets no syllable. So this is la, unstressed and connected to the previous note. So this would be slurred from the previous note. You would connect them and gets no new syllable. This one is stressed. And the one thing, there's a lot of little patterns in Byzantine music, which the intermediate group is learning to recognize over time. One of the patterns is that after petasti, you always go down. It'll always be a down symbol. So you'll always see apostrophos, or one of the other ones that I haven't taught you. So it's kind of a way of allowing you to sight read more quickly. That if you see petasti, easy. I know I'm going down next. So I can cut out half of the symbols already that you can sight read more quickly. This one again is la. You would connect the two, and there's other ways to combine these, which we'll talk about later. But so, unstressed.
Does stress always mean flutter?
If there's time. So if you're singing something, there's a hymn, the Plagal fourth tonate, Vespers, accept our evening hymns, O Holy Lord. The second note has a flutter. It's the petasti. Accept our evening hymns, O Holy Lord. However, if I'm singing it, the brief version, Accept our evening hymns, O Holy Lord. There's not enough time to flutter in there, unless you're a Greek guy or an Arab guy that has that capacity in his voice to flutter on just a short symbol. So if there's time, you flutter. If there's not time, you just stress it. So if I were to sing, accept our evening hymns, flutter. Accept our evening hymns, no flutter. So a lot of the teachers in Pittsburgh, one of the guys, when he introduces these, he just says, up one. Don't worry about it. It's all up one. Don't even do anything different. I at least like to let you know that how they're different and why there are three, because otherwise it doesn't really make sense. Why would you have three up ones? So there is a reason. You're perfectly acceptable to just go up one and not to do any flutter, especially if you don't have time to flutter, or if you're not confident in your fluttering abilities, then I would just say don't flutter. But if there's time, it's a nice thing. And that way, like when I used to chant in Pittsburgh, I would go like, na, na. And then somebody came up and they were like, you chanters, you're always making these things so flowery and so fluffy, and they're adding all these flutters. And I pointed at the music, I said, but it's written in the music. It's there. I'm not making it up. It's written. So I was reading how it was written. So there's extra ornamentation and fluttering. And we'll end the night with you guys all fluttering with me. So if I were to go, if this is ni, so just go la, la, la. Now on pa, pa. Now on vu, vu. And so the interval there is a little smaller. So now to ga, ga, ni. Back to ga, ga, vu, pa, ni. So in your spare time, if you're walking around the halls or wherever you're going, la, this little flutter, just to practice, get your voice ready to go. And with that, if anyone has any questions, I'm willing to entertain them.
Yeah, can you review again the unstressed thing?
Sure.
There seem to be two cases.
So so if we have this one never gets a syllable, except in Kratima, which we can talk about later, but that's a specific type of hymn that has no words. But this, it never gets a syllable for our purposes. Never, never, never. And it's always connected to the previous note. And it's almost always on an unstressed beat. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, this is on 2. Or if it's 1 and 2 and this is on the end. So it's always the unstressed beat and always connected. And
So it acts like a slur.
acts like a slur. Yeah. So it's as if, if I had 5 lines and I wrote, this note, and then this note, and I just went this. This would be, instead, this would be ga, or this would be vu. So this would be ga, li, F, G. So with a slur between the two.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay. So.
Yeah, and the difference between the hyphen and that is the hyphen had the same note on the second.
It always has the isan. Yep.
Yeah.
And so that you're slurring them together, but because it's the same note that you're slurring into, it's a tie.
Yeah.
So you're tying it and making it a longer note.
And it never gets its own syllable, you said.
The kandimata?
Yeah.
Yes. Never gets its own syllable. Except in this certain type of hymn, which are kratima, which are senseless syllables, nonsense syllables that monks sing if they want to extend a vigil to 12 hours. So they're the hymns of the angels, Teririrem, and Nena no, Na na, where they go, Ne na, ne na, and they just keep doing that for like 20 minutes. Because they're going beyond the prayer of the lips and they're going to the prayer without words. That's just being in the presence of God, the angelic hymn.
They're not speaking like in tongues, are they?
No, they're just saying Teririrem or Nena no. There's historical reasons for Nena no and Teririrem, which we can talk about. There's 2 theories about Teririrem, which are fun. But
So it's like when we sing la,
yeah, if you're and like what is it, Chopin's Songs Without Words, or is it Chopin? or Debussy, one of them where they have songs without words, and it's just on some syllable. Yeah.
I
So.
like Cirque du Soleil.
Hmm?
Cirque du Soleil. They have
Oh.
yeah.
Right.
Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah. So the monks do that too. So, but for our purposes, never gets a syllable.
Okay.
Cool. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.